Ever since Apple released the original AirPods, tech companies left and right have been trying to replicate Apple's success, which I think is great because not only does it keep Apple on their toes to innovate, it also gives consumers more options. Today we're going to look at one of those alternative options. These are the Wyze Buds Pro, and in this video we're going to check it out to see if it's a worthy competitor to Apple's AirPod Pros. Hi everyone, welcome to another Tech Talk with Samir, where I talk about anything and everything related to technology in my life. And out of all the technology in my life, perhaps some of the most frequently used tech are my headphones. I never leave the house without a pair. And if you've seen some of my previous videos, you may have seen that I've gone through many different iterations of headphones over the years. Eventually, I've settled with the AirPod Pros, and I haven't looked back in over 2 years. But let's face it, the AirPod Pros are expensive. At $250 MSRP, it's not exactly for everyone. And I admit, if I didn't originally get them as a gift, I probably wouldn't have bought them myself. But ever since I started using them, it was hard to overlook how great they are. And it's not any specific feature by itself that makes it great, it's the overall experience. Last year, when I saw some marketing material from Wyze mentioning the development of their Pro wireless earbuds, it caught my attention, specifically because of the features they were highlighting for the earbuds. I mean, it was very apparent that these were aimed at the same target audience as the AirPod Pros. But the thing that really caught my attention was the pricing. At the time, they were aiming to release it for around $60. We'll talk about the pricing a bit later in the video, but considering that they cost less than a quarter of what the AirPod Pros cost, if they deliver on the specs that they're claiming, then they may just be the first highly affordable worthy competitor to the AirPod Pros. If you're not already familiar with Wyze, the company, they're mostly known for their inexpensive security cameras. I actually have a few of them in my house, and their newer generation of cameras perform really well for the price. So I already had an expectation of Wyze being able to deliver good products at a price that's more favorable for consumers. So I recently decided to get the Wyze Buds Pro to see if they live up to my expectations. Even the package it comes in is very Apple-esque. The packaging is very minimalistic, and in the box you get the earbuds in its charging case, some extra silicone ear tips of different sizes, and you also get a USB-C charging cable, which I'm sure a lot of Apple users envy. Let's face it, lightning cables are long overdue for a change. But I don't really care much about the type of charging cable, and I'll tell you why in a bit. Out of the box, before even trying them out, the first thing I notice is the size of the charging case. One thing that Apple has nailed compared to most of the competition is how compact the AirPod charging cases are. Sure, you can get more battery life from a larger charging case, but if it creates an uncomfortable bulge in your pocket, I personally think that trade-off isn't worth it. The Wyze Buds Pro, on the other hand, have managed to make the charging case even smaller and, in my opinion, sleeker than the AirPods Pro. So right out of the box, I'm already getting a good impression of these. Remember how I said the type of charging cable isn't really a concern for me? Well, that's because just like the AirPod Pros, the charging case on the Wyze Buds Pro supports wireless charging. And that's how I charge my headphones most of the time. I really don't deliberately charge my headphones. Whenever I get home, I just place my charging case on my wireless charger and it keeps it topped off for my next listening session. And because of this, if a wireless earbud doesn't have a wireless charging case, it's probably a deal breaker for me at this point. When it comes to pairing with my phone, that's where I noticed the first major difference between the AirPods Pro and the Wyze Buds Pro. With the AirPods, the process is completely seamless, where as soon as I open the case for the first time, the phone itself asks me if I want to pair it. On the Wyze Buds, however, it takes a little more effort. You either open the Wyze app and follow the instructions to add the earbud, or you can directly add it from your phone's Bluetooth settings. Now, this is only a problem for iPhone users because if you were to use your AirPods on an Android device, the process to add both of these headphones would be almost identical. Also, technically, this is an inconvenience that you'll only likely have to face a very few times, maybe even just once if you only plan on using your headphones with one device. So to me, this is a non-issue when trying to evaluate these headphones overall. I briefly mentioned the Wyze app for pairing the headphones, but the app is actually used for more than just that. When I first paired these to my phone and opened the Wyze app, I was right away prompted to update the firmware for the buds, which took a few minutes. The app is also used for customizing some of the touch-sensitive media controls if you don't like the default controls. Another thing you can do from the app is toggle between the different noise cancellation modes. Yes, these earbuds have active noise cancellation. That's another premium feature that makes it a direct competitor to the AirPods Pros. One of the main reasons why I love the AirPods Pro so much is because of its active noise cancellation system. Not just the cancelling of the noise itself, but also how Apple uses the same hardware to implement transparency mode. Transparency mode is where instead of cancelling out the surrounding noise, it amplifies it and passes it through your headphones. It's great for situations where you need to be more aware of your surroundings, like driving for example. The Wyze Buds Pro also has transparency mode, and honestly it works really well. And I would say the transparency mode on the Wyze Buds Pro are very comparable to Apple's implementation, and that's very impressive. When it comes to noise cancellation itself, I think Apple still has quite a bit of advantage here. Don't get me wrong, the Wyze Buds have very acceptable active noise cancellation, but it just isn't as good as the AirPods Pro. But I think that says a lot more about how good the AirPods Pro's noise cancellation is than it does about the Wyze Buds. I personally haven't been able to take the Wyze Buds Pros on a plane, but I can see it being quite effective for cancelling engine noise. To toggle between the noise cancellation modes, like I said, you can do it from the app, or you can just touch and hold the touch control area. It will toggle between noise cancellation on, off, and transparency mode. I wish there was a way to select which ones to toggle between rather than all three, because if you were trying to go from one to another and back, you have to go through all three modes. As you switch between the modes to indicate the change, you hear a voice announcing the change. If you're listening to something, it can get a bit annoying because it dims the volume of your music or podcast to make those announcements. I wish it just played a quick beep or other sound rather than speak it out, similar to what Apple does. Not a deal breaker, just a minor annoyance. Speaking of touch controls, you can control your volume as well as media controls directly from the buds themselves by tapping the control area on each earbud. You can customize the functions of the taps through the Wyze app. The touch controls are generally limited to just tapping the earbuds. You can have different functions depending on the number of times you tap. For example, you can have a single tap represent volume, you can have double tap represent play pause, and triple tap to bring up your voice assistant. But in practice, I found it a bit finicky to do anything beyond just a single tap. It was a hit or miss for me. That being said, it took a while for me to even get used to the AirPods Pro's controls with the stem. So it may just be that I need to use the Wyze Buds Pro for longer to get used to the timing of the tapping gestures. I did however notice that the single tap gesture can be quite sensitive, so if you're trying to adjust your earbud in your ear, you may accidentally pause your music or adjust the volume depending on what you have it set to do. Which could be why the single tap does not come programmed out of the box. One control related feature that does work well is auto pause your music when you pull out an earbud from your ear. This feature is fairly standard now on most premium headphones and it works quite well on the Wyze Buds Pro. Just a reminder, if you're enjoying this video, please take a moment to hit the thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel to see more of my future videos. This is a very small channel and each of your subscriptions go a long way to helping me grow the channel. So back to the Wyze Buds Pro. Perhaps the most important question to many of you is how do these sound? Well, before I make an attempt to answer that, a disclaimer here. I am by no means an audiophile, and sound is one of those things that are very subjective to the listener. So something that I may find to be good might be considered as not so good by someone else who has different preference. That being said, I can generally tell the goods from the bads, and these Wyze Buds Pro sound very good in my ears. When comparing to the AirPods Pros, it's definitely obvious that the AirPods Pros are the better sounding earbuds. The AirPods Pros seem to have more dynamic range where there's more separation between the highs and the lows, and everything in between just pops a little more. The sound on the AirPods Pros also sound a lot more roomier. It's hard to explain, but it resembles more like what something would sound in person where multiple instruments are being played by different people rather than all of it being smashed together. But all these differences between the two earbuds in sound quality is only obvious when comparing them side by side. If I was to listen to the Wyze Buds Pros on their own, I would be totally satisfied with the sound quality from them. They're more than adequate for most people. And in real world situations, I don't expect anyone to be switching back and forth between headphones to notice these differences. Another important factor for most people is the general comfort and fit. And once again, I think this is a subjective topic because not everyone's ears are shaped the same. For example, I personally can't wear the regular AirPods. They fall right out of my ears. So I need something that has silicone tips like the AirPods Pro. I also know a lot of people who are the exact opposite. So my opinion on this matter is what it is, my opinion. For me, generally these fit really well in my ears. I've tried them while doing some weight training and it held up very well in my ears. I've also tried them while running and once again they stayed in my ears without needing to push them in too often. By the way, I hate running, so if you appreciate the lengths that I've gone to bring you this video, please make sure to hit the thumbs up button. Overall, for me the fit is great, and I would say they fit better in my ears than the AirPods Pros. I usually have to push the AirPods Pros in my ears more frequently than these. As I mentioned earlier, these do come with few different sized ear tips, and I did have to change mine to the largest size ear tips to ensure a good fit. Also, if noise cancellation is important to you, make sure to find the ear tip with the best fit for you because active noise cancellation is only good when you have a good seal in your ears. As for comfort, although generally good, they're not as comfortable in my ears as the AirPods Pros. I think fit and comfort has a bit of a trade-off. I think for best fit, you need to make sure that they're snug against the walls of your ear canal, but that may result in some discomfort during longer listening sessions. So it's something that companies have to balance carefully to hit the sweet spot. Overall, they are comfortable. It's just that once again, they fall victim to AirPods Pros being exceptionally good in this regard. But if I didn't have the AirPods Pros to compare to, I'd be totally satisfied with the comfort of these earbuds. And again, this is a subjective matter, so it's possible that some people may find these to be more comfortable than the AirPods Pros. Speaking of fit and ergonomics, one very minor issue I have with the Wyze buds are the way they are oriented to fit in the charging case. Whenever I pull them out of the charging case, I have to rotate them before I can put them in my ears. Like, it doesn't feel like a natural motion. I'm sure muscle memory will eventually make it easier for me, but my concern is that if I'm trying to take these out in a crowded subway or bus, I may accidentally drop them as I'm trying to fiddle around to find the correct orientation. I don't know, I may just be overthinking it, but going from the AirPods Pros, it takes a bit of getting used to. Let's talk about battery life. Now, another disclaimer. I didn't quite let it run its course when it comes to battery life, simply because of my wireless charging habit that I talked about earlier. So I'm going to talk about the rated battery life. These are rated for roughly 5 hours of playback, which is actually better than the rated battery life on the AirPods Pros. That being said, the AirPods Pros has a slightly larger charging case, so it has a slightly higher overall battery life if you factor in the case. AirPods Pros are rated for roughly 24 hours of listening if you factor in the charging case, whereas the Wyze buds are rated for 21.5 hours in the same scenario. But either way, both should have good enough battery life for the casual listener without having to plug in throughout the day. Overall, I think these are a great pair of earbuds, not just for the price, but just in general. Of course, when compared to the AirPods Pros, there's gonna be shortcomings, but I think that's an unfair comparison, because Apple can do a lot of things within their ecosystem that others just can't. I haven't even mentioned some of the other AirPods exclusive features like spatial audio, audio sharing, and seamless device switching. It's just something that Apple has the luxury of implementing since they control their entire ecosystem. That brings me to the title of this video. Are these better than the AirPods Pros? Objectively, no, they're not better than the AirPods Pros, but I think they come a lot closer than earbuds that are significantly more expensive. One thing for sure is that they're significantly better value than the AirPods Pros. My personal opinion is that if the AirPods Pros cost $250, and if you wanted to price these proportionally to the performance, these should be priced at around $150. But these cost $60, or does it? So here's the thing, when they first announced these, it was expected to be around $60, but I haven't seen them be sold at that price since they launched. On Wyze's website, it's currently selling for $83.99. And on Amazon, I was able to find it for $10 less. So the $60 price tag wasn't as promised. Maybe Wyze realized how these rack up against the competition and decided to take advantage of the market. But even then, it doesn't change the fact that these are an amazing value for the features they have. I'm gonna leave Amazon affiliate links for the Wyze Buds Pro in the description of this video if you're interested in checking them out for yourself. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. As always, stay safe and I'll see you again on the next one.